Welcome to another edition of Bases and Balls with Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus with us. And here we go. Preview of the playoffs. They start this afternoon at 12:07, best of three against the Tampa Bay Rays. And Rosie, let's start there real quick. I like the new format by Major League Baseball more than just that one game playoff thing that they had.
Absolutely. I think on so many levels, Ray, look, baseball's played out over a 6-month season, and then to decide who moves on with just one game was always tough. And of course, the Guardians had that one experience with Tampa Bay that didn't go well back in 2013 because they ran into a hot pitcher, and that's what can happen. So this, I think, a little more true test of which team might be a little bit better, and it also gives an advantage to those two teams that get the byes, because if you didn't win all those games in the regular season to get the byes, you should have a tougher path, and you'll use some pitching, and those teams get a break. So I think it works all around to be a better format than maybe what they've had in the past.
Are there any question marks, in your opinion, of the roster being set for the playoffs? I mean, we've seen some guys and some pitchers and hitters be red hot, maybe cool a little bit. That's always a big thing, setting that playoff roster.
Well, it's interesting, Ray, because I think everyone makes a big deal about it. Who's going to be on that roster in the end? The players and pitchers that they're talking about are at the back end of this. It's not like it's an impact player. I mean, they're pretty well set position player wise from what we've seen the last week. Once they put Bo Naylor on the roster, I think he stays, and they go with 3 catchers just because they like to pinch hit for their catchers late, and you don't want to get caught in a spot where if you pinch hit and the backup catcher gets hurt and then you're in extra innings with a guy who's never done it before, that's not a good spot. So I think Naylor's on there, and the rest of them have been here. So, what you see it, or what you have seen, is what you'll get. I think some of the tweaking will be in the bullpen, how they set that up. Did Zach Plesac make enough of an impression to be that long guy, which you may need? And here's the thing, Ray. Regular season, extra inning games, you had the ghost runner. So chances are you're not going to go more than 10 or 11 innings. That's out for the postseason. It's back to regular extra innings. So you have a 15, 16 inning ball game, you're going to need a long man. And I think that puts Plesac in a real nice position to be a part of this. He may have been anyway, but that might really salt it away. So yeah, I mean, they'll have some decisions to make on that back end of the pen, or maybe the early guys, the middle guys, but that's about it.
This is an interesting 3-game set with Tampa, best of 3, I should say. 2 franchises that kind of built with player development, built on pitching. They're not the big clubbing teams, not that either team can't hit the home runs, but they're teams that like to run the bases, hit the ball hard, and pitch the big game and catch the game. I'm not saying they're mirror images, but very similar when you look at our guards and the Rays.
Well, very much so. And look, 2 of the smallest market, lowest payroll teams in baseball. So they have to figure out a way to be successful with that dynamic. And they've both been very good. I mean, Tampa Bay is a perennial playoff team now. And the Guardians have been, really, since Tito's been here, more often than not. And they're back at it again. So yeah, they do it a little bit differently. I think runs are going to be hard to come by in this series. We could have some low scoring, close games, I would think, just based on what we saw when the Rays were here on the last homestand. And I think just the way they played all season. So I'd be shocked if there's some games that are, one way or another out of hand in the 6th, 7th inning. I think they're going to be close going down to the 9th inning each time.
Jim Rosenhaus with us, Guardians broadcaster, Bases and Balls on WAKR, brought to you by our good friends at Nika IBEW. Standing ovation the other day when Jose Ramirez checked out of the game in the afternoon contest against Kansas City. What a season he's had on the field, leadership off the field. And I thought maybe you could reflect a little bit on J-Ram and the season that he's had in leading this team into the playoffs, Rosie.
Ray, it changed everything when he agreed to sign a long-term contract right at the start of the regular season. That changed everything. Spring training, you just kind of, they were talking about it being a young team and okay, they'll battle and they'll find out about some young guys. Um, but you just thought, when is the shoe going to drop? What's going to happen with Hosey? If they can't sign him, are they going to trade him? And you heard rumors that, a couple of teams were putting together some really nice packages. And honestly, it was kind of depressing, and here you're getting ready for a season and you want it to be exciting and have optimism. And then when he signed, it's like it flipped the switch and everything changed. And you couldn't have predicted what would have happened with these young kids and, Stephen Kwan and Oscar Gonzalez, and the list goes on. But that's where it started. And gosh, he means everything to this team. The numbers speak for themselves, but the way he plays the game, what he means to his teammates, he's the leader of this thing, and he's a huge reason why they're where they are starting today.
Rosie, I was reflecting the other day about baseball in general this season. You got Miguel Cabrera getting the 3,000 hits. You have Albert Pujols going over 700 home runs. You have the accomplishment by Aaron Judge at 62, whether you think he's the home run champ or not. It's an American League record. And then you have the play of the Guardians that put the ball in play and kind of, the baseball that you and I grew up with and such. I think it's been a good year for Major League Baseball in general. And you talk about it each and every day. I was wondering about your thoughts about the year that the MLB had.
You know what, Ray? I think I guess the perspective I have is, in early March, we didn't know if there'd be a year. And what a shame that would have been based on all the things you just said. It has been a fun season. Obviously, as working for the Guardians, to watch this every day, the unexpected seasons don't come along very often. Next year, there'll be expectations. It won't be the same. This has been really fun because it's been so unexpected. So from that perspective, it's been great. And then, yes, the individual accomplishments of the players that you mentioned. There's been some really good history this year in the game. So thankful that they got things sorted out, because again, it didn't look good there for a while. There were some stretches in late February, early March where you're thinking, sheesh, is this going to be another season where you start in July and it's convoluted and 60 games? No one wanted that again. And we got a full season, and it delivered. I think it's been really fun. There weren't many exciting pennant races. Most of those were wrapped up well before the final week of the season, but that's okay. I think the postseason is going to be a lot of fun. And again, I can't wait for it to get started.
Rosie, my final question for you, and we'll be listening to the broadcast later on today, 11:35 airtime, 12:07 with that first pitch, specifically against this Tampa Bay team in this best of three. As you mentioned, runs are going to be tough to come by, but what do you look at some of the biggest keys in this series for us, the Guardians?
Well, they're going to have to play clean, do the little things baseball, which is kind of up their alley. So that's been good. I think they'll be able to scratch for enough runs. But Bieber has to be Bieber. McKenzie has to be McKenzie, the ones that we've seen all year. And then you feel good about Clase at the end. How do the other pitchers in that bullpen that get to him, how do they fare? They've been really good this season. Now the postseason lights are on. Can they continue to deliver? Tito's really good about who to go to and when. And when they're called upon to get it to Clase, that's going to be a huge key. If Bieber can be the way he's been the last 2 months, same with McKenzie, I think they'll be just fine.
There you go. Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus. He's coming up a little bit later on this morning with the pregame show and the first pitch into the afternoon. Rosie, as always, my friend, thank you for the time to visit, and we'll look for the call today.
You got it ready.